Prince, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Definitely glad to be here.
How's everything going for you?
Oh, everything is going pretty good. Pretty good day out here in Denver, Colorado. I think y'all are in LA, right?
We're in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego, close enough.
Yeah,
Close
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Close.
Just right down the street.
Two different spots though, for sure. It is
Oh,
close.
Cal.
We
Yeah.
can drive there in a couple hours, so it's close enough.
The weather's
Nice,
the
nice.
same, that's for sure.
All right,
Nice.
so we start every podcast kind of the same way. Just want to kind of get to know you, how you got to where you are, and then kind of bring it all together. So if you were given an elevator pitch, what would you say?
My name is Prince Dykes. I'm a children's financial literacy author, financial literacy expert. I'm the host of the Investor Show podcast, active duty military for 17 years, and looking to retire here in about 2 to 3 years. I've done some pretty cool things. Had some pretty interesting people on the podcast. Wrote some books, some cool things there. And we teach financial literacy across the globe to schools, boys and girls clubs, and also to military as well.
Wow.
So you're still active military?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
17 and a half years, U.S. Navy.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate your service. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
What does your schedule look like then? If you're still active duty, how do you find time for all the other stuff you do?
I ask myself that all the time. But as veterans, I noticed that a lot of veterans, once we retire from the military, we kind of lost with knowing where we want to go, what do we want to do. Like myself, I've been in since the age of 18. I'm 36 years old now. And I started working at my 10-year mark, which was about 7.5 years ago, and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to start working on it now while I serve. So it takes some sacrifice, but I make it happen.
That's
great.
incredible.
And when did you get into kind of the finance industry? Like when did you kind of start heading towards that? Because you said you've been in the military since 18. So what took you onto the path of becoming intelligent in the finance space?
Well, it started a great question, but it first started out, I was a logistics specialist on submarines, on fast attack submarines. And being a logistics specialist, that was my introduction into finance. And I just kind of went overboard from counting inventory I looked at my career path and it said that, hey, being a logistics, accounting and finance would probably be a good field for you. So I said, okay, great. So I started taking courses. I went on and earned my associate's degree and bachelor's degree. And then I earned my MBA while serving, did Series 65, Series 63, life insurance, health insurance, accredited financial counselor, a slew of certifications. And I just said, hey, this is when I finished my MBA. When I finished my MBA in 2012, I said, hey, I want to get started now before I retire. So everything started essentially with a little small Facebook page, and it grew into a YouTube channel, Instagram, and it just grew from there. It grew a whole lot faster than what I expected, to podcasting. At that time, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook wasn't what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of, grew, and I just kind of grew with it. And I just started meeting cool people along the way that started to help and assist me. And I started honing in on my craft, studying, reading every book I can get, whether it was formal or informal, going to every event, learning what I could learn. And I just kind of got ushered into the industry that way. So.
Wow. And how do you make that transition? Because it sounds like a lot of transitions, a lot of learning, but then how do you get into children's financial literacy? Like how do you make that jump?
Well, now my son is 9 years old. His name is Wesley. He's actually in the other room taking a coding class. And what happened with him, as I saw the industry and learned the industry, with so many basic things that when I just started to discover it, I was like, man, how did I not know this? Simple things like I didn't know what an index fund was. I didn't know what the S&P 500 was. I didn't know how to invest, dollar cost averaging, like simple things that I should have known at a young age. I'm learning these things, as I'm earning the MBA at the age of 25 or 26. And when I got on the internet, I was appalled at how many people. I thought it was only me because I'm from a small town in Georgia. I said, man, they didn't do a good job with teaching us this stuff. But then I got appalled when I went onto the internet and started talking to my service members that they were just as clueless as I was.
Yeah.
And then I kept asking that question, how did we get here? And I just said, well, how we got here was we didn't know this as a child. So, when I was in high school, I took an economics class, which was pretty decent, but I thought investing was for the wealthy. And then I don't think I learned how to balance a checkbook. You see how useful that is today, right? and that was it.
I don't know
So
if
I
I
just
know how
thought
to do that, to be honest.
all right. But the whole idea was, I just said, why aren't we introducing these complex things into children? So what ended up happening was, I started, teaching my son Wesley. He was about 3 years old. So we used to make little videos together back in 2013, 2014. And I wrote my first book and published it myself in 2015, which was Wesley Learns to Invest, just a children's book talking about introducing the father and son, learn this world of investing. They earn a dividend check. They
That's
open
brilliant.
up a account, buy their own stock. So I did that in 2015. Then in 2017, I did the second one, which was Wesley Learns About Credit, right? So I thought it'd be awesome to teach kids about credit. And I was a finalist for Shark Tank. I went out for Shark Tank in 2016, and I pitched my whole idea and what I want to do with financial literacy. And I pitched the idea, what we know today as Start Engine, which is kind of like taking Shark Tank, putting it on an app. I created an app back in 2014. And I went on Shark Tank and launched it. And I became a finalist, but I didn't make the final taping of the show. But through that process, I met Famous Amos, the cookie legend. He was on there with his new cookies. I was watching that season because I was almost made the season. And we ended up connecting, and he really loved my first book. And he told me when he created the cookies, Famous Amos, he had no idea about financial literacy. So he helped me launch my second book, Wesley Learns About Credit, out in Hawaii with iHeartRadio. And then I moved here to Denver, and I wanted to do a children's book on insurance. As crazy that is, I would say, I think kids should know about insurance. They should be introduced into it as a child. And while I was writing it, I ran across NFL Hall of Famer Terrell Davis. He's from San Diego. I went to the Broncos Stadium to watch him speak, and we had a conversation. And he came up with this idea. He said, "Hey, Prince, I want to be in your next book. You got to put me in this next book." I said, "Okay, he's joking." And come to find out he wasn't joking. He was serious. And we launched it. Okay, Wes, give me a second. That's my son.
Maybe we should have Wesley on.
All right. That's homeschooling at
he
its
could
best.
teach us. Okay, that's that. We'll get there. I have a lot of questions about that because I feel like your outlook on education is much different than the normal path. But continue going, then we'll get there.
Yeah, so I decided to teach my son about investing, credit, and I launched the insurance one with NFL Hall of Famer Terrell Davis. He guest starred in it, and it was Rod Smith, the Broncos legend. Rod Smith hosted it, and the coolest thing was, long story short, I was invited to Warren Buffett's office, and he really enjoyed the books, and he wrote a letter to me and Wesley in each one of the books back in 2019 before COVID came in. And he took me to dinner with him, and he featured me in his latest book of his life that came out last year. So
wow,
that's probably been the coolest thing I've done. So
congrats. That's awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.
Providing value to a space that's really not relevant, right? Because we just kind of conform to the natural education, or not natural, but just the education system that's been built for us without really any hesitation. And I think what you're doing is awesome. That's great. I didn't know that at all. I know you have the investor show, but I didn't know about the children's literacy. That's pretty cool.
And also, then in 2017, I founded the foundation, the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation. And we created a book club to where the kids have to read each book, take a quiz on each book. We test them before the book and after the books. And then we turn kids into first-time shareholders. So we sit down with parents, and we did it in DC where we gave away 4 shares of Coca-Cola. We did it here in Denver where we gave away some Coca-Cola shares in Nike. So we try to get shares that are relevant to kids. They know what they are. And turning kids, so the book series turns kids into first-time shareholders. So I don't like to just share the pie in the sky theory. I want to show tangible results. And I realized something, John, is that when I open up an account for a child and I put the shares into the mother's account, the custodian account, it's almost 100% guarantee, even though I don't have to find the factual data, they always end up buying more shares.
Yeah. No,
and I think it's the financial industry is the only industry where you have to educate people before you can sell them a product.
100%. And it's such a because a lot of adults aren't financially literate, and I know that's the kind of the problem you're trying to create a solution for, but everything, and that's with business school, just going to college and a lot of people going through everything, that you don't really learn what you need to learn to actually go out and do anything with it, especially in the investment space and the financial literacy space. Everything that I learned about finances, and granted it's not a ton, came from actually going out and doing it in startups and in business and in the jobs
and
that I
making
had.
a shit ton of mistakes, for sure.
This is my belief. My belief is that community colleges are more valuable than universities.
Absolutely.
In 2021, as we see the time, it's more about skills nowadays than it is about, hey, you know, I have an electronical engineering degree.
I mean, even moreover than skills almost is that just the connections you make, so that maybe you don't have to be the smartest in the room, but you got the smartest guys around you. You know, that's kind of what we try to do.
Exactly. So it's that concept of, excuse me there, but it's that concept of having schools where a kid can learn cybersecurity, HVAC. We're all going to need AC. We're all going to need heat and AC. We're all going to need cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is becoming very, very important. Think about it. Who's going to install the solar panels, right? As we become green and green energy, who's going to install the solar panels? When you look at a plumber, that's not a hands-on job, but it's not a bad job. Versus you're seeing people earn master's degrees and business degrees, and you're walking into the field and, you know, let's be honest, there are softwares that are taking us out left and right.
Yep.
You know, it's like, hey, do I hire an accountant or do I just get QuickBooks and pay $50?
Yeah.
No, and it's, I mean, you mentioned solar and plumbing and all those kind of trades. That's what we're kind of trying, because there's not any incentive these days for people to come into those types of fields. Not even because the incentive doesn't exist, but just because no one's talking about it and no one's saying, hey, you can make money in these fields. You can, if you commit yourself to this, you could make just as much money as an MBA
It's
student.
more talked about negatively, you know. It's not looked. I just wrote a blog about that, how it's looked down upon being a tradesman or being in these fields, you know. And like John said, I'll let you continue, but this is a great connection, because this is what we're doing the same as well. Kind of with what you are.
And you know, a cool part about that, what you said there, Dan, right?
Derek.
Okay, I thought you said Derek. Okay.
No worries.
Derek. The cool part that you said about that, it was looked down upon. It was like when I was in high school, they'd be like, oh, you may go to community college or technical college, right? These kids are going to go to university, right? And so you that's automatically putting it as, oh, your grades, you don't qualify for this college. You go to technical college. So automatically you put it as, wow, I'm going to technical college. It's not as cool as a real university. So, but you learn that one of the most powerful skills you can have is people skills. Yeah. Learning how to talk to people, learning how to handle people, learning how to be of service to people, right?
The emotional intelligence.
And that's a skill I didn't know it was a skill. It's almost, it's one of those things that I think if I had to pick one skill in the world, it would probably be emotional intelligence. Having the charisma to be able to talk to people, things like that.
You can get what you want.
You know?
You use it correctly, you know?
I mean, we say it all the time. College, and once again, this is my opinion, but college, or a business degree specifically, trains you to get a job. It doesn't train you how to start a business or even run your life, or, I mean, any of the stuff that ends up being most important once you're 10 years out of school and actually getting into life. Business school doesn't prepare you for that. And we went through, I mean, our journey started with me and Derek starting a landscaping company. And zero of the things that we learned, or at least from my own perspective, zero of the things that I learned in business school helped prepare me to start this landscaping company. And we relied on the emotional intelligence and just being able to communicate and being able to network with individuals to grow from 0 to 4 million in 12 months. And those are skills that are unteached at this point, and not that are hard to learn. You just got to be kind of thrust into them before you can kind of figure it out at this point, because there's no training.
Yeah.
You have to, it's one of those things to where what I did was from publishing books to podcasting to starting my own, small financial company, was you just had to learn from the school of hard knocks, really. I'm from a small town where I think the average income is something like 20 to 30,000. So it's very poverty stricken down in Waynesboro, Georgia. So it's not a lot of people. You don't have a lot of the networks and connections to know what is good. My dream when I was growing up was to have a house and 2 cars and go on vacation once a year. That was a dream because 95% of the people where I'm from did not do that. So I was just like, man, if I could just do something, I get it. Then when I got here, I realized this was regular.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I thought this was like a dream, but wow, this is, regular. Like, man. But now that you know the position you're in, that's why I will start to I'm always grabbing a book, trying to grab a book, go to, listening to podcasts, listening to the radio, listening to, watching things on TV, because I know it's a big gap of what I don't know. Mm-hmm. My dad, for prime example, my dad always told me, he said, son, I wish I would have known about investing, right? Because I said, Dad, why, I remember we had an Apple computer in our house. We always brought Nike. I love the McDonald's. I eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch every day. Why you never invested into these companies? I always begged you for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And he just told me, he said, son, to be honest with you, I didn't know I could do that, right? Mm-hmm. And just imagine, he said, now in your generation, you can pick up a phone and have access. Now you have access to everything versus back then, I would have had to drive 2 hours to Atlanta. I would have had to have so much money. I'd have had to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. It was a big leap to be able to get into those things. And I always ask myself, what if my dad would have known? How would it have changed myself and my brother's lives?
Yeah. And to take it even one step further, I mean, you always see in the news, and we ask ourselves at times, why did this successful person go broke? How did someone with this much money go broke? And the simple answer is that just because they had all this money doesn't mean they know what to do with it, because they were never prepared for it. So, I mean, I'm sure the advice that you give and the courses and the literacy, if they just would have had some of that, there'd be a lot less of that going broke after you've made it, because it doesn't necessarily translate. Just because we made the $4 million in the 12 months that we did doesn't mean that we know how to spend it just because we have it.
That was a great story. Famous Amos told me, he said he made $800,000 his first year. And this was back in 75, right? Off of cookies. His second year, he had about $2 million, right? He didn't have a high school diploma. But the thing about it, what I learned, this is the part I learned about it, John. When a businessman usually rises to the top, his circle usually changes, right? He has trial and error, his network changes, he learns different things. He learns, hey, I need this is what I don't need, this is what doesn't work. So when you do reach the top of that staircase, the likelihood of you falling off overnight is pretty slim, right? Versus someone like a lottery winner, an athlete who was eating ramen noodles yesterday, now they got a $20 million contract, they're more likely to lose their money because their network hasn't changed. Imagine if you went from eating ramen noodles to boom, here's 20 million. You still have the same friends. You still have the same circle. And the likelihood of you losing that money is so great because your network hasn't changed. You know how many athletes I met that, I know one athlete came on my show. He blew $20 million. He invited me to his house to interview him. And over his 8-year span, he told me he made about $15 to $20 million. And I don't know, now all he had was about $400,000 in a Roth IRA, and that was because he couldn't touch it, right?
Yeah.
And he said, hey, everything was fine when I was playing, but when I stopped playing, I had about $4 million. Everything was going out, nothing was coming in. So 1 or 2 false bad investments, you could be back to square one, especially if you create that same lifestyle. I said, here's something simple. You never thought about buying a franchise? Oh man, that would have been a good idea. I didn't know that. I was like, how did you not think to buy a franchise? What about your house? Did you buy it? No, my agent always took care of my house. I never bought a house.
That's a shitty agent.
18. The agent will walk in. His credit score was like a 400, 500 because he never used cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you got to think about it. Think about it, Derek. This is think about Derek at 18 and 19. Everybody's telling him he's an awesome person. And you got a bunch of money. You become arrogant. He said he was arrogant. He didn't listen. His financial advisor told him, hey, I'm trying to build you up so you can live off your interest. Well, my mom wants $30,000 right now. Send it to her. Like, well, that's going to throw I don't care. right? Now, when you get older, of course, when you get older, now you're 28, because the window is so short, especially for an athlete. Most of the time, the window is pretty short. That now, imagine if all the decisions you made at 19 to 25, the money you make from 19 to 25 is supposed to build you for the rest of your life. And the mental, and you got to think about it, most of the people who this happens to, it doesn't happen to the people that are mostly come from the best backgrounds. Mm-hmm. They're the first and only person in their family to have money. So you're trying to solve everybody's problem. And then when you're an athlete, you don't think it's going to end. You've been told you've been great since the age of 10. So me not being able to catch a football or run, people, they don't think about that until it's over. But the story is, think about it right now. You guys, y'all have y'all podcast. Over time, as y'all grow, y'all going to learn what works. You're going to learn marketing, this, that. You're going to have a whole incubated system, what sound system works, what camera works, whatever the case may be. And as that grows, when you get to the top, you're going to know all the things that work or doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Versus if you got to the top automatically. Versus a difference between taking the stairs and the elevator. Yeah. Very big difference.
Definitely.
And I mean, shifting into the construction too, because financial literacy is so important there, because in this world, if you're good at what you do, if you're a good plumber, if you're a good landscaper, HVAC, whatever it is, it's a different level of taking in money than just a traditional job is. Now you go sell a $50,000 job, now you have $50,000, but how do you spend it? How do you make sure that you don't spend it before the job is done? How do you make sure that you can leverage into what it is? That's why so many contractors go broke, and even guys that are good in the trades go broke, is because there's no management of that money as it's coming in, understanding cash flow versus cash on hand, understanding how to put it to use for you. So there's such a space that even if we can get to the point where we can educate people that the trades are a really good, it's a very good moneymaker. It's a good way to start your career. Once you get into it, there's still no training for, okay, now you're coming into this money. How do you not go broke during the middle of a job and compound that to be able to get taken to the next level? So we're trying to solve that problem, and we're glad we met you, because we don't know how.
John, a good one too, John, is what I learned. I've seen people in the contracting space underbid in order to just get a job. Mm-hmm. So they just say, oh, look, like government contracts. Some people were underbid. Now they're working, and they're practically working for free. Mm-hmm. They're now working backwards because, like you said, they ran out of money before the job was done. And now they're digging into their credit cards to get the job done. So now to the outside eye, it looks like they're working, but they underbid the job and don't have enough. They didn't estimate properly to get that job done. I think one of the answers to that is, if the person is not independent, maybe the company could have financial literacy courses. Like, for prime example, the military has I'm a command financial specialist for about 8 years now. In the Navy, for prime example, they have command financial specialists that teaches us, and that teach, where they send us off to school, and then our job is to teach, and they give us access to, for prime example, let's say if the construction company outsourced their financial literacy, maybe once a quarter, they had somebody maybe come in virtually and speak about the 401k plan, how to utilize the 401k plan, how to do X, Y, Z, and to say, hey, this company, you're going to be able to make a virtual call, I don't know, once a quarter to get things in order. You know how bad I wish when I was 19 years old for me to retire at the age of 38. All I needed to do, all somebody had to tell me to do, you need $440,000. In 20 years, you need to get to $440,000. I didn't figure that out until later on in life, because the reason why the $440,000, that would put me in a position to pay off a house, right? And when you retire from the military with your pension and you don't have a mortgage, you're doing okay. You're doing pretty good for yourself if you don't have a mortgage, right? But nobody told me that. Everybody said, hey, here's your 401k. Put money into your 401k. 98%, don't quote me on this, but it's just my only data myself that I collected, which is not that great. But how many people, not to ask anybody that's watching or listening to this or catch the playback, how many people know their number? What I mean with know their number, how much money do you need to retire? How many people know that?
2%.
Exactly. See, I like Derek. See? But most people, you don't know. So this is why you jump into any investment, because now you can learn and say, wow, if I need to get to 400,000 in 20 years, if I got 7% from an index fund, all I need to invest is $800 a month.
Yeah.
$800 now. With the other 200 or the other extra money you got, you can go buy all the cryptocurrencies you want. You can go to Vegas. You could try to flip a house, whatever you want to do. But you know, hey, this is my solid plan that's going to retire me. But most people, we invest and we don't even know where we're going.
Yeah.
Quick.
I want $1 million. I don't need $1 million to retire. A lot of people probably won't need $1 million to retire.
Yeah.
Some people, and depending on your case, some people may need $50 million, right? But depending on your lifestyle, but how many people have sat down and said, you know what? I know what my number is. I need to get to $3 million in 20 years.
Huh. I mean, to take that, just to make it even more simple, how many people do that on a year-to-year basis just in their business to be able to understand how to hit their financial goals for the year? Mm-hmm. I mean, just from a revenue standpoint, I mean, saying that I want to make $4 million versus saying I need to sell whatever that breaks down to divided by 12. I need to sell this many jobs per month to get to this level. I mean, no one really even sits down and takes the time to say, this is what I need today to be able to get to what I need this week, to be able to get to what I need this month, to be able to hit that revenue number I want to hit at the end of the year. No one even really does that.
Yeah,
that's true as well. Coming up with that, you know, some people like you make money, but that's come down to financial planning, right? And there's some things I'm not good at. What I'm not good at, I'm not a handyman, right? I'm not going to be in my garage putting in a new motor, a muffler. That's just not me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outsource that, and I'm going to find somebody who's smarter on that than me. And I'm going to say, hey, look, should I get a motor? Should I be getting a new car? Can you put a new motor in my car? But the financial industry is one of the few very industries where people don't seek out experts.
Yeah.
Most people that I notice, it's a family thing. They have a family guy. Grandpa used them, granddad used them, and they're kind of like if you kind of was raised into it. But in my neighborhood, I did not know one person that had a financial advisor, a financial planner, anything. Most people just like work, and when you collect a pension, live within your pension. That's it.
So
and that's if you were lucky enough to have a job that had a pension.
Yeah. With your experience in financial literacy and just the financial world in general, how do you do you have one blanket approach that you have a conversation with people in different backgrounds that kind of fit all molds, or do you approach each individual differently as far as like what you're teaching them and the tips and advice you're giving them?
Well, I have to meet every person where they're at. Some people, they kind of know, hey, you know I should be investing. I'm looking to invest XYZ. I remember one time it was a parent where the daughter had won 2 shares of Coca-Cola. And what we do is we had a nice pretty certificate for the kid, and I gave them a nice 2-liter Coke, and the mom came and picked them up from the Boys and Girls Club, and the mom was not interested in the shares at all. Right?
She's about to sell them.
Say again?
She's going to go sell them, go buy some clothes or something.
She wasn't even interested. I said, well, all you have to do is just set up a E-Trade account or a TD Ameritrade account or Charles Schwab account. Once you have that account, my foundation is going to transfer you the shares if I get the account number and the routing number. And the mom saw what was required. Why do I got to set this up? What is this? And she was more interested in the 2-liter Coke than the shares of Coca-Cola. Now, the inside of me, I wanted to walk away and say, you know what? I'm just giving it to somebody else. But I thought, when I saw the little girl was so excited because she'd been through the whole curriculum. She was so excited, I had to fight the parent for the little girl.
And it's really not the mom's fault at the end of the day, I don't think either. I think it has a lot to do with our education system. And that's why I think we're very similar as well, because that's kind of what we're trying to create as well, is an education system for contractors, a business education, you know. Maybe we'll have you guest appear for the financial literacy part.
I know, right? Nice. But that's very true. With a lot of people, this is them stepping out on a limb.
Yeah.
My mom told me when I left home, she said, Prince, you know, rest of her soul, she passed away in 2013. She was a school teacher. She was educated. And she said, Prince, get a good job, work on it, retire. Mm-hmm. And I said, what about stocks? I heard about people. She said, don't do stocks. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose your money. I said, okay. 2008, I finally get to a position in life where I have a large disposable income, right? I'm in Iraq actually in 2008. And I'm getting tax-free money, whatever. I'm single. I don't have any kids. So I'm just like, what do I do with this? So I started talking, and every day I would wake up, all these big banks were just crashing. Bank of America, bankruptcy. Lehman Brothers, bankrupt. Ford, bankrupt. General Motors, bankrupt. I'm just wondering, like, man, how do I get into this? And this guy told me to start buying mutual funds. I started buying mutual funds, and all I'm doing every day I log in, mutual funds are just going down, down, down. I was just like, my mom was right. She told me I was going to lose my money. I don't know what I'm doing. I had no recognition that this was a business cycle. I had no recognition of this is a cycle. This is a downturn in the economy. The economy will come back. I had no idea, right? So I just thought it was the end of the world. We was in Iraq. We was in Afghanistan. Gas prices were through the roof. Unemployment was through the roof. All these big name companies were filing bankruptcy. I really thought it was the end of the world, right? And had I had financial literacy, I would have totally attacked it and looked at it a totally different way. But at that time, podcasting really wasn't a thing. Social media really wasn't a thing like it is today. So I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
Everybody would teach me budgeting, but nobody would teach me investing.
And I think I want to get your opinion on this, but I think most of these things, whether it's financial literacy, contracting, playing sports, whatever it is, most people don't do something because they don't think it's possible for them. And I think that's how you started the podcast too, is investing is for the wealthy, is the thought that's in most people's head. So getting over, and I'm sure that went through the mom that you were talking about with the daughter and leader of Coke. She didn't necessarily, she's just like, investing isn't for me. What am I going to do with these shares of Coke? Because she has no idea. So how do we get people to understand? I know from a contracting space, it's possible to start a $4 million landscaping company. You know from what you've done that it's possible to invest and make money at any financial level. How do we get that first kind of message across that, hey, whatever it is you want to do, here's the person you need to connect with to show that it's possible so that you can start your journey on whatever it is you want to do?
I think the first thing is you must first, you got to understand where we're coming from. A lot of us, this is foreign. Coca-Cola has been ingrained in us. So it's an American way of life. We're familiar with it.
I'm addicted to it.
Say again, Derek?
I'm addicted to it.
Addicted, exactly, right? Disney, Disney, getting your oil change in your car, getting your hair cut. These are things we did as a child. We seen them, things that we just learned because it's not foreign to us. We have to understand that many Americans like myself it's foreign to us to the fact of it wasn't around us. Our dad wasn't a stockbroker. You take Mr. Buffett, for example. Look at Howard Buffett. Howard Buffett was his dad. His dad was a stockbroker, right? So he had books laying around in his office. Warren would pick up some books. So he had an introduction to it. So when he got introduced to him, it wasn't foreign. It wasn't like, oh, well, what is this? I don't know. If you walked outside right now and you were to see an animal that looked like it was mixed with a pit bull and a bear, majority of people, I don't know, Derek looked like he might live on the wild side a little bit. But
Hey.
majority of people would be like, oh, is that a pit bull or a bear? Let me go ride it, right?
That's
No.
not me. I promise you that. I'm not riding any pit bull.
I would. So since you don't know it, you're going to say, well, I don't know what that is. I'm going to get away. So that's how the world of investing is. When we look at brands, and doing certain things, we are not going to jump into something if we wasn't introduced into it as a child, if it wasn't ingrained to a way as a child. So that's one of the things I started doing was saying, hey, a child shouldn't graduate high school in America and not know what the word investing is. They shouldn't not understanding what credit is. I didn't know what credit was until I brought my first cell phone. When I got my cell phone, they said, well, we got to run your credit. And I said, oh, I never used it. It got to be good.
It's got to be good.
Not knowing now I had to pay this large deposit to get a cell phone.
Yeah.
Not knowing that, hey, today you can make your kid an authorized user on your credit card and start building their credit right away today, right? Because if you can tear down something, you can build it. If you can mess up a kid's credit, you can build a kid's credit. Mm-hmm. So those things of introducing kids to those things at a young age, right? So it doesn't seem foreign to them, I think is one of the big things. When we fast forward to adults, one of the strategies I learned at work with adults, I tell them to invest into things they know. Everybody knows what Nike is, Coca-Cola, Apple. You use an Apple computer, look into the Apple stock. When you use Nike every day, you grew up on Nike, look into Nike. Use Microsoft, look into Microsoft. You use Google every day, Netflix. So when you start to do those things, they're like, well, you know what? I do use this every day. I have had Verizon for 50 years. Grandpa had Verizon. Maybe I might look into that company. That's usually the thing that works with adults is when you break it down to the commonality of these are things you use every day. And once they start to understand those companies, it kind of takes that wall down to making people open to finances. And the second thing I learned with adults, people are like, well, Prince, I don't know about investing. I said, I thought about that too. You have no other option. It's 3 simple things. Credit, either you're going to, not credit, but either you're going to put it in stocks, real estate, or business. That's it. Unless y'all know something out there that I don't know, but all of them really pretty much fall into stocks, real estate, and business. How else? You can't save money. Interest rates are at an all-time low. That was part of stimulating the economy last year. The Federal Reserve put the interest rate to an all-time low. So interest rates, a money market account or a savings account or a CD is not even keeping up with inflation. Mm-hmm. So what can I do? I have no choice but to invest.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And we're very lucky because we live in a time where you can go on YouTube and find the Investor Show and learn things, or go into podcasts and learn things. I fell in love with real estate investing because I worked at a golf course in college, and my sophomore year I was out picking balls, and I found the Bigger Pockets podcast, and literally ever since then, that's my life plan. I think stocks are great. I have nothing against it, but I just love real estate because that was the first thing I really found, and that's what I'm kind of passionate about. So we're lucky to have those tools, but the world is very lucky to have you because your goal is to really change the way that investing is perceived from a young age, and that's how it's really the world will change. Man, the world really is lucky to have somebody like you who wants to make an impact for the better, especially with our young children in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what you just said was so powerful. You show people always ask, hey, people from my hometown, from small towns, somebody might be out there from the middle of California, and they say, well, I work at In-N-Out Burger and I don't know anything about anything, right? And you say, well, you know what? On your Facebook page, what are you following? On your YouTube channel, what are you following? All this free things, podcast, what are you following? So you can just pick up your phone and follow anything these days. Follow anything, like you said, the Bigger Pockets podcast, right here, y'all already built a landscaping company. Those are lessons right there. How did you do it? Mm-hmm. How did you go from picking balls up on the golf course to saying, man, to getting your first piece of real estate, right? How did he do it? What is the thing about it? We will always need a place to live. And when you look at the wealthiest people in the world, they have the same 3 things in their portfolio: real estate, stocks, business, every single time, right?
100%.
Real estate, stocks, business. So when you look at that whole idea, it's just that you have, what I learned there, in my dad's generation, they didn't have enough information. In today's generation, we have too much information.
Yeah, it's hard to really pick and choose, right?
Mm-hmm. You don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Well, we know where to start, and it's with you. so I think that there's some powerful things we can do together. I think that us introducing you to the world of construction is something to be very powerful for the world of construction, and just guys that aren't necessarily financial literate that want to be. So I've really enjoyed this interview, and I think it's going to be the first of many conversations we have about how we can get not just kids but adults that are in their business that aren't financially literate to be financially literate. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. What's next for you?
Thanks to Teresa as well.
Oh yeah,
Teresa's awesome. Great. She's great. What's next for you before we go?
Right now I'm in the process of I want to do a children's book on real estate.
Cool. Right.
We did credit, we did investing, we did insurance. I want to do real estate in Texas, but I'm waiting for the right pieces of the puzzle to come together. The next thing is we're spreading it's a Wesley Learns book club into as many boys and girls clubs as possible, turning kids into first-term shareholders because it's easy. And Derek, like you said, one thing I did for my son on his 9th birthday, I brought him a piece of land. Right?
Good for you.
It's not the best piece of land in the world, but made him a landholder, right? Then for his 8th birthday, I put his name on a credit card. So everything I try to make real world. And I want to write about that in a way of saying, hey, look, turn your kids into landholders, right? So that is on, going to continue to do the podcast, retiring from the military here soon. And that's about it,
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Everything else, just stay tuned.
So where can people find you? How do people look you up?
Oh, yeah, they can find me on Instagram under Prince Dykes on Instagram. You can put my name into Google, Prince Dykes, and you'll see all my little social media links. If you type in Prince Dykes on Google, you'll see my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube channel, Amazon, where all the whole book series is. We have paperback, hardcovers, ebooks, audiobooks. On our third book, 40% go to the Broncos Boys and Girls Club. That's nice. What Mr. Terrell Davis wanted. So we're very excited about that. So helping out as many kids as possible. Our foundation is Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation. That's our nonprofit where we seek to give kids as much as possible and to give them tangible results. So a lot of people love to give you a lot of education, but it's like a pie in the sky almost.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do it too, but how do I do it? Does this relate to me? So yes, it does relate to you. So that's one of the things we seek to do and push. Also, my hometown, named my son's birthday, Wesley. March 16th is Children's Financial Literacy Day in Waynesboro, Georgia. So I'm very excited about that.
That's
in
amazing.
My hometown. So shout out to my mayor for making that happen in 2019. So yeah, we're going to be, COVID has made things, we don't get out as much, but we're doing everything virtual. So
that's great, man.
I love it.
We're doing everything virtual. So we're going to keep it going, keep pushing and things like that. So,
well, thank you very, very much. We'll shoot you over the episode and we will, I'm sure, be in touch soon.
Definitely. This episode will be on the Investor Show too.
Awesome.
Oh, awesome, man.
Thank
you,
definitely.
Appreciate you.
Oh, good stuff. Thank you for having me.
We'll talk
Talk
soon.
to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, later. All right.